Right then folks, this is it. First few moments in the Pimax Dream Air. And you know what I'm like, I like to record my very first impressions with it. Okay, because you don't get that reaction back, you know. So we're sat on the ground here at Innsbruck. And my immediate first thought actually is, it's a little dim actually, to be fair, considering this is a bright day. It does feel a little bit dim in this. Is this 100% brightness? I've got, by the way, guys, I've got Calvin here from Pimax sat beside me. You won't see him, but basically he's brought this over to my house today to try. This is a prototype, so bear in mind this isn't quite final. I've got a different head strap. I'll just show on the screen now with some footage of the headset. The strap is basically a Vive Deluxe audio strap. That's not obviously going to be changed, as well as the facial interface as well. So keep that in mind. But it's the lenses and the panel. That's what we're here for today. That's what I'm interested in. But yeah, there is one thing that is hitting me straight in the face, and that is the sharpness. This is insanely sharp. Really like pin sharp, crispy sharp. I can see over there every individual tree. That's beautiful. Now, just to show you my settings, because I'm actually intrigued to know myself. I'm running a 5090 for this test, and then I'm going to go back to the brightness because it does feel a little bit dimmer than I was expecting. If I take foveated rendering off for a moment, we'll get to see the full resolution. So that's what we're rendering. Interesting. At the moment, I'm running at high setting in Pimax Play, which is hopefully the sort of rendering target that we're expecting here of 4986 by 4090. So that's quite low, really. That's lower than I expected, but again, the field of view of this is going to be not as high as the Super. And I'm getting at the moment, whilst recording with NVIDIA Broadcast, a solid 45 frames per second at the moment, which is very nice. But yeah, it's very sharp, but are we running the brightness? Let's just quickly check that a minute, because it does feel a little bit dim. No, yeah, brightness is full. Okay, that's interesting. Making sure I'm still recording, because this is a very rough and ready video. So that was my first thought, really, was like, it's just a little bit on the dim side, but then I am used to the Crystal Super. So that's something to bear in mind. Let's go flying, folks, and see how we feel. So, right, okay, no, this is hitting me straight away in the face. The lenses. Wow. Lenses are very, very, very nice in this. Excellent, in fact. Wow, yeah, oh yeah. So these are custom pancake lenses, which is a first for Pimax. And let me tell you, honestly, guys, straight away, these optics are absolutely superb. Unlike my flying for some reason, which I can't seem to... don't have any yoke authority. Right, give me a second, folks. This is the first impressions. I'll come back again, hopefully, with some flight controls. What's going on? What is going on with this yoke today? Yeah, lenses are beautiful in this. Absolutely friggin' gorgeous. Right then, folks, we're back. Now, I've just had a quick chat with Calvin, and he said they are aware, Pimax are aware of the brightness issue, shall we say. So, because it's not like terrible, but this does feel quite dim, if I'm honest. If I compare this to the Meganex, which is my daily driver, that's my favourite headset this year so far. It doesn't quite pop so much, but in terms of the colours, well, it is micro-OLED, so it does look phenomenal in terms of the colours. And while we're talking about colours, let's have a look at the black levels here. It's got to be done. Let's just turn the lights off, because I'm going to look for glare, because that's the next thing I want to have a look, proper sort of check. Okay, interesting. Wow. Where's the glare? Can hardly see any glare here. It must be there somewhere. Usually in a scene like, okay, there's a little bit on the outer edges, ever so slight bit of glare, but that's really minimal. I'm being really picky here, folks. I'm basically looking for any imperfections, you know, because that's what you guys want to know, isn't it? Really, if there's any like glaring issues, so to speak. And in terms of glaring issues, in terms of that, yeah, glare is just not an issue at all. I mean, wow, compared to something like the Meganex again, and the big screen beyond, this is almost like aspheric lenses in the sense that there's hardly any glare at all. It's just ever so slight at this sort of bottom right and left in a scene like this where you'd expect a lot of glare. So if any of you guys are worried about the glare in this, hands down, this is absolutely a non-issue, complete non-issue. One thing I am a little bit confused about, I'll ask Calvin because he's right next to me, is black level wise, unless it's just the scene I'm in because of the city lights, it doesn't feel completely black. I don't have complete, like what I'd expect, real pure black levels. This almost feels like local dimming, but that could be because, let me just take my strobes off, landing light off, and maybe even instrument panel lights off. Let's just turn them down. Yeah, to me it doesn't feel quite as black as I was expecting from a micro OLED. Is that something you've heard before, Calvin, or is that me saying that for the first time? I'm the first person to say that, yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Because this is micro OLED after all, and I just feel like I'm flying over here on purpose now in this sort of completely away from the city lights. I just feel like it's not as pitch black as micro OLED usually is. That's not to say it's not dark. This is still very dark. It feels like the Crystal Super kind of darkness, which is interesting. So yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's go back to daytime again. And let me just check the recording, make sure it actually is recording, and I'll come back with some more first impressions in a moment. Right, actually, welcome back, folks. Now that I've got a box in front of me, let's have a look to see if we can see any warping. Because that's something that is very important, of course. And I'm doing weird things on the camera now, but all I'm doing basically is looking at these lines and seeing if they change in shape, if they curve or distort as I'm going up and down. And yeah, very, very, that is not moving at all. You know, Calvin, I'd love to know who is behind the warping profiles at Pimax. Have you, like, you know, is there some sort of engineer that you've employed recently? Because I've noticed since the Crystal Super that your warping profiles are really, like, absolutely superb now. Like, there's just nothing, it's not moving at all. That is perfect. So yeah, how do you go about your warping profile?
Yeah, actually we do have like a few engineers that...
Well, let me tell you, give them a raise. Because they are doing a great job, honestly, when it comes to like the lack of warping on the edges here. Yeah, really nice. Now, one thing I will say as well, because you know there's good and bad things about this, I have noticed some quite strong colour fringing on the sides there. You know, right at the very far outer edges of the field of view, there's just a bit of brown, sort of a brown tint, which is sometimes, you know, that is the thing with micro OLED. The big screen beyond has it anyway, but it's something that I have noticed here, and it's more noticeable when you're looking at a menu, but you're not really going to be doing that much, but it's just something to think about. But yeah, just on the right hand side and left, there's just a bit of colour fringing that I've noticed there. In terms of chromatic aberration, which is admittedly, folks, I'm not very good at looking at CA. I don't tend to be sensitive to it, but I'm not noticing it here. It's a non-issue for me. Again, it's nowhere near like the, say, crystal light, for example. Yeah, chromatic aberration feels well, I can't see any of it. I'm sure it's there, but I don't notice it so much. In terms of the, field of view, I might be able to test this, if that's okay, Calvin. I might be able to test this before we finish this. But I feel like it is around 100, maybe, slightly less. 90-ish, probably high 90s, 100 degrees horizontal. Vertical feels probably about the same. Binocular overlap, feels absolutely... this reminds me of the Megan X in terms of its binocular overlap. If I look with my eyes left and right, I do see a little bit of the outline of the other lens, but ever so slightly. But overall, it feels very comfortable on the eyes. Because that's something I was a bit worried about, is eye strain, because that's something, that some Pimax headsets, they do have that issue with eye strain. But I can already tell, I reckon I could wear this 3 hours, no problems at all. It feels very comfortable on the eyes. Now, Calvin just said to me, there is different options for field of view. At the moment, we're running the, did you say 103 degrees? Yeah, okay. So we're looking at maximizing that binocular overlap in this test at the moment. And this is where, everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to have a different take on this. For me personally, I do prefer eye comfort, a great binocular overlap, and a smaller field of view. For me, that's fine, because the thing is about field of view, once you're in the headset, after about 5-10 minutes, you just get used to that field of view anyway. However, for those of you out there that do prefer a much wider field of view, well, it probably would make sense to go for the micro-OLED optical engine of the Crystal Super anyway, but there is different settings for this. Is that right, Calvin? So is there a wider field of view mode for this? Are we able to try that now? Or right, great, folks. Right, see you in a moment. We're just going to change the field of view, binocular overlap, and I'll see you in a moment. Right, folks. So we've now just changed the profile. Before, the binocular overlap was at 95 degrees with a field of view horizontal of 103 degrees. Is that right? And now we've changed it to 85, I think, degrees binocular overlap, somewhere around there anyway. But we're rendering now 112 degrees horizontal. I can definitely tell the field of view just feels that bit wider, of course, which is what you'd expect. And in terms of the binocular overlap, it's just one of those things, folks, where, this actually still feels very comfortable for me. Even though this is just that bit wider, gives you that better sense of speed. But don't get me wrong, this is still, quite a small field of view compared to the 50 ppd, for example, which is about 126 for me measured. That's the thing, I haven't actually measured this yet. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that in this test, but if I get a chance, I certainly will. I quite like this. And in terms of something I haven't spoken about at the moment, because there's so many things going on in my head, and I've only got a very short amount of time with this headset, so I'm trying to think of everything that just comes to me naturally, and that is the lenses themselves. In terms of the sweet spot, that's the eye box, of which you can sort of move your eyes around and it feel very clear. It is very, very, very good. Like, I think the best way I can describe this, and this is a strange thing to say probably, is it feels very Quest 3-ish when it comes to lenses. And the reason why I say that is because the Quest 3, funny enough, even now has the best pancake lenses out there. But this is right on par with them. And I've never said that before with any other VR headset. But these lenses are absolutely, well, I was going to say the star of the show, but to be honest, it's the combination of these lenses with this 4K micro-OLED panel. Finally, I think it's about time we said this, that we've got the perfect pairing of a really high-end, high-resolution micro-OLED panel with great optics. And And I'm just looking now, absolutely there's no trace of any Miura. Obviously because this is micro OLED, but in case you're wondering, there is zero Miura with this. Just a beautiful clear sky there. No interruptions between me and that sky. Very much like I said with the Megan X, and it's why I love micro OLED so much, is because you kind of forget there's a screen in the way, you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking now at that cloud formation, the blue sky, the beautiful, gorgeous mountains here, and I don't feel like there's a screen there. It just feels like there's a window into this scene right here. It's absolutely stunning. I mean, yeah, these visuals, wow, they are mind-blowingly good. They are eye-wateringly, like, crazy good. I can't think of a superlative to fit what I'm experiencing here. This just looks fantastic. Yeah, I really actually like this, Calvin. I like the 112 degrees rendered field of view here. I'm not quite sure what I'm getting measured. According to the figures you can see on the screen now, that's what it's rendering, and it does feel comfortable for me. Unlike the ultra wide, which, to be fair, I'm okay in that for a couple of hours. And that's the thing, guys, this is a first impressions. I'm only trying it and testing it, being in it for about 10 minutes at a time, and then changing settings. So please bear in mind that these are just my first impressions. But when I've got the headset here and I can spend hours, days in it, really, basically just testing everything and spending time with it, that's when I'm really going to know how it feels in terms of these different settings. This could give me eye strain after a couple of hours, but I'm just not going to know that today. But on first impressions, it does feel very comfortable. But I do like how you've got those different options there. You can have a much better binocular overlap, which admittedly is very comfortable on the eyes. At 95 degrees, it's basically perfect. And sacrifice a bit of that field of view, or do it the other way around. And I love that. There isn't really any VR manufacturer that I know of that gives you those options. So credit where credit is due. You can tailor this to whatever you value most in the VR headset. What do you prioritize? Better field of view, sacrificing binocular overlap, or the other way around. Pimax are going to give you that choice, which I think is a great idea. In terms of the negatives, so I'll just sort of sum this up a little bit because it's quite difficult, not having a lot of time here. In terms of the negatives, at the moment, bearing in mind this is a prototype and Pimax, well, apparently they are aware of this, is the brightness is a bit lackluster for me. I feel like the brightness isn't quite what I was expecting. I do obviously appreciate that micro OLED, it's not going to be as bright as a QLED display, but I was expecting a little bit more. Weirdly, when it's pitch black, and I'll just do it again, for some reason it's not giving me that wow factor of the black levels. It feels good, but doesn't quite feel as dark as the Megan X, which is just strange. I don't know why that is, but again, I'm sure that's something that can be sort of looked at in the firmware, and it just could be a bit of a glitch or something, because I don't have much time with this, and it could just be something with the software. Now, in terms of sharpness, something I haven't really spoken about much, it is absolutely pin sharp. It is beautifully sharp. There's something about the fill factor of a micro OLED VR headset that just absolutely just gives you that insane sharpness. I mean, this definitely feels sharper than the 50 ppd. It feels, do you know what? I think it might be it feels sharper than the 57 ppd, or at least on par with it, which is very interesting considering, I think, in terms of ppd values, I think this is around 53, is it? Is that right, Calvin? About 53-ish. But you know what? I don't care about all these numbers. It doesn't matter. It only tells half the story. And that's the thing with all these different numbers and stuff that we're talking about today. Ultimately, it's how it feels. And that's something that is hard to convey, but I'm going to try and do it for you here. And that is, these are some of the best visuals I've ever seen in a VR headset to date. They remind me of the MegaNex, but with way better lenses and a better field of view, which is something that greatly excites me. My prediction is, at this point in time, that, I mean, I haven't tried the micro-OLED version, which should be the same as this really, but in the Super, either that or the Dream Air will possibly be the winner for 2025. I think it might actually beat the MegaNex, but I'm not sure yet though, because like I say, I do need time with it. But first impressions, so long as the brightness can be sorted out, because I don't feel it kind of kicks as well as the MegaNex. And there is, again, colour fringing on the outer edges. I can just see a little bit of just like a brownness of the colours. Those are the two things that I've noticed. Now, in terms of the positives, as I've just mentioned, these are probably the best visuals that I've seen today, right up there with the MegaNex, and they've got huge potential. The lenses are absolutely superb, like no warping that I can detect. I'm very picky with warping, but I don't see any warping. If I look far down low here, I can still read the bottom of this display here, except initialization. I can still read that. If I look over here and just crane my eyes down, I can still read that. And again, not so much actually. Okay, so the sweet spot is better down low. Up high, it starts to blur in the sort of 10%. And then in terms of horizontal, it blurs. Yeah, it's a bit blurry for that sort of, again, the sort of 10% of the lens. So it's certainly not complete edge-to-edge clarity, but then I'm not expecting that. I mean, even the Quest 3 does not have a total, like, you know, edge-to-edge clarity. But once you're in that sort of sweet spot, which is absolutely massive, if I move it around here like this, I'm still in the sweet spot here. Yeah, in terms of micro-OLED pancake lenses, the sweet spot and optics are the best I've seen today. They completely wipe the floor with the MegaNex, and they're very close to the big screen beyond, but I think they just edge it out here. In fact, they do, because of one thing which I've forgotten about, because I'm not seeing it, so I'm forgetting about it, and that is glare. There's just hardly any glare in this whatsoever. Phenomenal job. So yeah, this does have promise. Just a few little niggles that I've noticed. I'm not really going to talk about the comfort too much, because this isn't the final strap. But to be fair, this deluxe audio strap does work with this okay. It's the facial interface, which I can feel it's pressing on my face now, so it's not as comfortable. And that might be actually giving me a bit of a better field of view, because it's a very thin cushion. I don't know what the the actual full release version will have in terms of its cushion design. You might actually have a little less field of view once it's completely final, because I do feel my eyes are literally like touching the lenses here to get that field of view. So yeah, comfort wise, it's not too bad. It's not as bad as I was expecting, but I'm looking forward again to trying out the final version of this. So one thing I always forget to say, and I'll just mention it now, if you are looking at pre-ordering the Dream Air, I do have an affiliate link in the notes below. However, I will say at the moment, don't use it. Don't buy it just yet. Wait for the final release versions. Wait until I've got it here and I can test the full release version. But if you can't wait and you want to get in line straight away, because I do appreciate there's going to be a massive demand for this headset. Absolutely no doubt about that. This could be Pimax's best VR headset to date. Then feel free to use it if you want to support the channel. But my gut feeling is that just hold off and don't use it for now, and wait until I've got the final production unit. But yeah, I'm obviously using a 5090 here at full resolution, and it's performing way better than the Crystal Super 50 ppd, and you have better visuals. It's sharper, the colours are gorgeous, you know, there's no glare, the sweet spot is absolutely excellent. Field of view wise, I actually do like this 112 degree setting. I think the binocular overlap at 85% is fine. So long as they can sort out a few of those little niggles I've mentioned, they've got a winner on their hands, absolutely. Right folks, so my last test, I'm now using a different profile yet again. Apologies before, it was actually 87 degrees binocular overlap with 112 degrees field of view, but now I'm running 85 degrees binocular overlap, but I'm running at, is it 107 degrees field of view, horizontal. And do you know what I reckon? In fact, I know straight away that this is the sweet spot for me. So let me conclude this sort of first impressions of the Pimax Dream Air, because lots of things are running around my head at the moment. This renders, and this is a bit of an ouch moment, but for me this renders the QLED optical engines useless. And that's because I am a bit of a fanboy of micro-OLED anyway, admittedly, and brightness for me isn't so important as it is probably for you watching this, which is fair enough. But the colours, the contrast, the black levels, which I thought would be better in this, but I do feel there's something going on there. You know, I'm pretty confident that it's just probably this unit or some sort of software glitch. But generally speaking, micro-OLED has perfect blacks. Together with these beautiful optics, they are absolutely superb. Like, very minimal glare. I'd like to say no glare, but I know that there'll be some situations where you'll probably see a bit of glare, but it really is so minimal. It's just an absolute non-issue for me, you know. And when I think about the fact that this will have eye tracking as well, which by the way I'm not using today for this test, and I'm now up to 55 frames per second nearly, with a 5090 admittedly, at full native resolution using TAA mode, not DLSS4, TAA. That is a exceptional performance. It feels so smooth with this form factor as well. And there is another reason why micro-OLED for me as a flight simmer is so important, and that is this, the sky. We tend to look at it quite a bit as a flight simmer, funny enough, and that's where you do see that mirror with the QLED panels. But with this, it is absolutely perfect. And I'm looking here now at the scenery, and it is absolutely pin sharp. Something else I've just noticed, I don't know why this is. I'm just trusting what my eyes are telling me, that I don't know why, but I can see further out. It's sharper further out with the pancake lenses with micro-OLED than it is with the QLED panels. Maybe it's that fill factor again, I don't know. But I can just see more details of that mountainside. It's really super sharp as I'm overspeeding. So this profile here for me is my favourite, personal favourite, 107 degrees field of view, horizontal, with an 85 degree binocular overlap. Actually, this is the sweet spot for me. So yeah, I think I'll probably leave it there for this first impressions. There's so many things that I've probably forgotten to talk about, because at the end of the day, this is a very quick first impressions. Calvin, bless him, he's come all the way from Germany to my house to demo this today. So I am eternally grateful for that. I am very grateful to Pimax, just because obviously I'm quite a busy guy. I'm a dad now, I've got a full-time job. I can't really, you know, fly to all these different VR events. So I really do appreciate that Pimax has basically brought the Dream Air to me. And you know what? I am absolutely blown away with it. Overall, this is looking to be the dark horse of 2025. Of all the VR headsets that I've reviewed and tried this last couple of years, this might be the dawn of a new era for VR headsets for flight simulation, absolutely, because this has everything that you possibly would want, apart from wide field of view, that's the only thing. But to me, I favour clarity and eye comfort first, micro-OLED. I would pick this any day of the week over the QLED variants, it must be said. Oh yes, thank you. Thanks, Calvin. He's just reminded me of two things I wanted to talk about. The microphone. It sounds really good. What do you think, folks? Let me know in the comments below. But the microphone really sounds very nice. Now, of course, I've quickly set up this recording so the level's not, they might not be quite correct, because obviously it takes time to make content usually, and I've just quickly set this up. It took me like 5-10 minutes to mess around with the levels, but I do think, because I have listened back to a bit of the recording, and I think the microphone is excellent on this. That's the first time I've ever said that about a Pimax headset. I've often complained about the microphone, but this one, it's absolutely shit hot in my opinion. And when I say shit hot, that means good in the UK, by the way. It's a UK saying. Now, in terms of tracking, this is quite funny because obviously I've just moved house. So at the moment, I've got a base station taped to my wall. But even using one, you can see here, the tracking is actually fine. You only need one base station, especially for this kind of thing. Now, I don't know, it might lose tracking if I do this. Oh, wow, actually. But yeah, look at this. I'm actually looking behind me, and it's not losing tracking, and that's with one base station, which is impressive, I must say. And keep in mind, it's just taped to my wall. So that's kind of cool. One thing I was going to ask Calvin, actually, while he's here, the strap, obviously the final strap, what kind of audio are you going to have for that? Is it going to be DMAS, or is it going to be something different? It'll be different, because that's the only thing I'm thinking, like, it's probably going to be piped through the strap, in which case it won't sound as good as a DMAS. So that's something to think about, and I won't know that until I get the final unit. But to be honest, I would personally, if this was mine, I would keep the Vive Deluxe audio strap and just change the facial interface so it's more comfortable. And I think that's all I need for it to feel, pretty decent for probably at least a couple of hours or longer. But yeah. So I think, is there anything else I can think of to talk about before I finish this first impressions? We spoke about lenses, optics, absolute massive win, very comfortable on the eyes, great warping profile. Sweet spot is not edge to edge, there is still a sweet spot there, but it is plenty wide enough, no issues at all with that. Glare, excellent. There's just hardly any glare at all. I don't see any of it in the scenes that I've been testing today. Of course, I know I've only been using MSFS 2024. I could use different experiences like DCS World, different places, but I just don't have time today to do that, unfortunately. So I've kept the same scenario, testing different profiles. I really like how you can do that. You can change the binocular overlap, field of view settings to suit your preferences. That's got to be a win. Colours, beautiful. What else? Yeah, basically the whole package is very nice, apart from a couple of negatives. As I've mentioned already, I'll say it one more time, is the brightness is a bit disappointing for me. I was expecting it to be a bit more vibrant in terms of just that brightness. But again, that could be something that Pimax can solve, hopefully, in firmware and software. And also a bit of colour fringing at the far outer edges of the field of view. Sort of like a bit of discoloration, just on the very, probably 1 to 2%, which you can see hardly at all, to be honest. If I really crane my eyes to the right and left, it's there a little bit. Again, that's a bit of a micro-OLED thing, so that's not so much of a deal breaker for me at all. So yeah, obviously the microphone's really good, software works really well, I've had no crashes with it or anything like that, tracking works really well. Yeah, first impressions overall are very exciting for the final unit, which hopefully I should have very, very soon. And then I can do my usual in-depth tests, you know, full flight videos, trying different scenarios. So let me know in the comments, what kind of content would you like to see with the Dream Air? And again, if you're looking at pre-ordering it, you can use my affiliate link, and obviously that would support the channel. I really do appreciate it, but there's no pressure. And really my hunch is to kind of say to you guys to hold off. Don't use it yet until I can give you a full conclusion, hopefully in a not so distant future. So as we fly in the Vision Jet aimlessly around Europe, I think I'll leave it here for the first impressions of the Pimax Dream Air. Thank you very much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe. And again, thank you to Pimax for basically coming to my house to demo this today. You know, that's really appreciated. And I'll see you again very soon. Take care and bye for now.